Hello, how are you all doing? Sarah here. I thought today I would talk about making your own drum, birthing your own drum, and what you might get out of it. It's a really transformational process, I find, and something that is just profoundly life-changing. Definitely kind of the first drum I made was just propelled me into another world, into another way of being, really, looking at the world differently through different eyes. And I thought I'd just talk you through the drums that I have made and why, how they share their medicine as you're making them, really. So the process of making a rawhide drum is quite lengthy. It's quite hard, and it takes a lot of concentration, if you like. And the way that I teach is to appreciate the materials that we're using for a start. So the deer hide, the buffalo hide, the goat hide, whatever it is, horse, if you can get hold of it. All hold different properties. They all have their own specific medicine specific to that animal. And also the tree that you're using for the hoop is also very significant, that they all hold different medicine. And the trials and tribulations that you might go through as you're making your drum. There are different ways of making drums. I mean, there's the sort of Siberian shamanic way of making drums that have pieces of wood on the outside, so the skin is then stretched over that, but they're single-sided like this one is. So you also just have a plain single-sided drum like this 12-inch drum, which is a really nice size, this one, for carrying around with you on a daily basis or traveling with. It's a really nice one. Or you can have the double-sided medicine drums. Now this is a really hefty drum, and the medicine this one holds, it's an ash hoop, which is a traditional wood for making healing drums, because the ash tree is very healing and it holds a lot of medicine. Well, they all do, but ash is traditional for a medicine drum. It's deer hide, red deer hide, and it was sourced from a sustainable farm in Germany, actually, where the animals are either culled, or if they're sold for meat, then the skin doesn't go to waste. It gets sold to be used for rawhide drums and other materials, other tools and things. And this one was a drum that I made out in Gozo, that I was just teaching somebody how to make a drum, and I made one alongside. So, but what I found with this one is that the hide is very thick on this. It's I was using up some hide that was along the edge of the hide, which tends to be thicker than the central part, which tends to be a little bit thinner. And it's a double-sided drum, as you can see, and it's laced down the side there. And what I found with this one is that it was really difficult to work, because the skin was quite thick. And when I initially made it, it kind of, when the hide was wet, the two sides of the drum were really thick and lumpy in the middle and looked a bit like a donut. But it dried out to leave quite a nice edging on it, and it wasn't quite as clumpy as it initially looked. But it's still quite a hefty drum. It's a really heavy. Oh no, I tell a lie. It's beech wood. That's right. It's a beech hoop, which is much heavier than ash, and so the whole drum actually feels quite heavy, and its tone is quite deep. And while I was making it, I was being quite intolerant of myself and the way I was making my drum, and it kind of represented itself in that kind of clumpiness. I don't know why I felt that on that particular day, but I felt kind of quite out of sorts and irritable. And the beech tree is all about tolerance, teaching us tolerance. And I had to be very tolerant about the way this drum was making itself, if you like. It was clumpy and lumpy, and I didn't like it, and I felt that it wasn't working, and I guess I felt inadequate in front of the student that I was teaching. I was feeling that, I wasn't making a perfect drum. But actually, what it turned out to be was, perfect medicine for that time. And the other thing that I incorporated into this was this tiny piece of hide here, which has a hole in it. And I saved that because that hole was a bullet hole that was on the hide. And I worked out, when I was cutting it out, not to cut through that. And I decided to keep it as a symbol of the wounded healer. It very much spoke to me about the deer being shot and giving itself up to be a healing drum. And that's exactly what this turned out to be. It was teaching me to not be so hard on myself, not to be so bogged down with perfection and wanting to look good in a particular situation. And the wounded healer was very much represented in that bullet hole there. And it's turned out to be, although it is heavy and I find it difficult to hold it for any length of time, I do play this when I want to just remind myself that I'm not perfect. Life generally isn't perfect, and that I maybe shouldn't hope to strive so hard to be that perfect healer, to be that perfect maker of drums, and that we all work through a process. So this was a real eye-opener for me as far as drum making goes, and then I painted myself, which was kind of like in a chaotic hair mode with my drum here. So I find this is a super powerful medicine drum, because what I went through while I was making it, and what I realized afterwards was that it was showing me that, not everything is perfect, and I don't have to try and strive to be perfect. So that, the medicine of this drum is just super. And again, something similar on this one, where the hide stretched on a particularly thin bit. It's split. And again, I was thinking, oh no, I'm going to have to remake this drum. It's not working. But actually, it has a beautiful tone. And I shouldn't be so worried about imperfections. And the other thing was that I originally strung it with some quite thin lacing, which broke in the drying process, and so I had to re-soak it and string it again. And I'd only got some of this not perfect nylon thread. Actually, it's not cotton, it's nylon, which again I wouldn't normally use to make a drum, but it's all I had available, and I wanted to stretch the hide and make it a drum as quickly as possible, rather than having to wait for it to get some more hide and recut the string, not the string, the brain's gone. Recut the lacing is what the word I'm looking for. So actually, again, this has shown me that there is medicine in imperfection, really. And that's, you know, why we make drums, is that we're not trying to make perfect, beautiful, everything's the right size, everything's the right color, everything. We're using what we have available, and we're still making really special drums. This one is, as I've shown you before, my primary medicine drum, and again, this is beautifully laced on the sides, and it holds that resonance of a double-sided drum that I use in healing sessions. Because this was the first drum that I made, I really struggled making it, and I kept breaking the lacing. We try not to break the lacing as we're doing it, because it makes it more difficult to to thread it through the holes, and it also compromises the strength if there are too many breaks in it. So we try not to break it, but I kept breaking it anyway. And the lacing represents our life path, if you like. And my life path has had a few breaks in it. There are situations along my life path that were difficult, and I had to overcome them. So by tying a knot in the lacing, and then having to force it through a hole, and it taking quite a lot of effort to get it all the way through and stretched, that kind of represents my life path. And the double-sided bit, one side represents the male, one represents the female, or the feminine and the masculine, I should say, aspects of ourselves. So, we're working to balance both aspects, masculine and feminine, within ourselves. And again, the wonderful thing about double-sided drums is that the vibration bounces off the masculine and it bounces off the feminine, and moves it around, the sound around the drum, making them really special drums. And that's a reminder to balance ourselves, the masculine and feminine sides of ourselves, that not to lean too heavily on one aspect. So yeah, this was a really difficult drum to make, and I learned a lot about myself in making this drum. And then I have my River Dragon drum, which is made with goat hide and birch. And I have stones in it, and I don't use it as an ocean drum. Actually, what I use it for is that the river is represented inside the drum, and the sound bounces off those stones, and they make lovely little vibrations, and depending on where you hit it, you know, the drum itself has thinner and thicker parts to it, which you probably can't hear through this microphone, but I don't know whether you can hear the little stones all singing off each other. So again, I wanted to make a river drum, and while I was sitting down by the stream, collecting the tiny stones, the energy of dragon spoke to me, and so that's why I painted this dragon on it. So again, I learnt a lot about going with the flow with this drum. And goat, you know, is all about moving up to the top of a mountain through difficult terrain, that, you know, you make that effort to be sure-footed to reach the top of the mountain, not to give up, to be careful, to take each step carefully. And goat energy, you know, you might not think goat is very glamorous, but goat energy is super powerful if you need to accomplish something. And so that, combined with the river stones and the water dragon, I learned a lot about myself making this drum. So I would encourage everybody, if you're interested in drums generally, to make your own. It's a very transformational process, and you learn a lot about yourself, and each drum is very different. They have different sounds, you know, the animals that you're using are very different. And you learn different things about yourself. I mean, I haven't made two drums that are telling me the same story, that are, you know, showing me the same medicine. They're all very different. So it's, yeah, well worth doing. So, and, you know, it's your choice whether you make a single-sided drum or a double-sided drum. And my very first one was a double-sided drum, and you know, it's no more difficult. It just takes longer. It probably takes a couple of days actually to make a double-sided drum. Yeah, so if you'd like to make a drum with me, keep an eye out for some. Hopefully next year, I'm not going to do anything in the next couple of months, but hopefully next year I will have space and time to be able to offer drum making workshops, or if you like to do it one-to-one, that's great too. And okay, so I hope you all have a lovely day, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Ciao for now.